Thanks for joining us, Brad Shaw.
Hey, Brad.
Good to have you. Good to have you back.
Thanks, guys.
You joined us last year as well, and
He's a regular guest with us.
You've become a
every year
regular now at this thing.
Yeah, I enjoy these podcasts. It's fun. It's a fun part of this.
Yeah, and well, this day is a fun day.
It is great.
Yeah. And we say it every year, but it just gets better and better to see all these fans come out and just be able to rub elbows with you guys, players and coaches alike for a few hours. It's just like a very special thing with this organization.
Yeah, it's the legacy of it is pretty incredible. I've only been here 3 years, but I know they've been going 40+ years and raising an incredible amount of money. And I think what's more important is the fans, like you said, get that face-to-face time with their idols and their favorite players, and it's a great environment to do that. It's too bad it doesn't happen more often around the league. Yeah,
it's kind of cool experience that they have here in Philly, and it's kind of cool, I think, for fans today, because this is a fun team that you guys have this year. You come off a great win against Edmonton yesterday.
Is that kind of sneaky, maybe, Brad? I was getting in the shower this morning. I'm thinking to myself, that might have been one of their best wins yesterday of the year.
I thought it was. We were definitely opportunistic. We didn't dominate them. It didn't feel like we overpowered them to a 6-3 score. But I thought we, at the right time, made some great defensive plays to create loose pucks, and then we made them pay. And that's one of the ways you can beat a team like that. They just have so much firepower. I thought we did a good job of keeping them off balance. I think it's a tough game. You saw some crazy scores around the league last night. 8-3 in Pittsburgh
8-2.
I saw a couple big ones, and I thought we did a great job of taking advantage of the mistakes they made.
Do you think that's just obviously you guys have been off for a couple weeks, but is that just a lack of structure, you think, around the league? First game back after not playing together for a while. Because one of the things I thought you guys were at risk of, and you actually proved me wrong with the game yesterday, was I thought that there would be a little bit of a chance. We got 5 guys come into the lineup that weren't there the last time you played. You haven't played together for 2 weeks. You might have a little bit of that, just a little off on the structure thing. And you guys were pretty solid in that regard.
Yeah, I thought the first 6-7 minutes were good.
Yeah.
And then we sort of fell back and started watching a little bit, stopped checking.
Yeah.
Thought our sticks weren't nearly as good as the first stretch. And, they're that type of team. Once they get humming and zipping the puck around, there's such a high-level skill on that team in certain areas that you can sort of lose yourself a little bit. I thought we did a great job of sort of catching it, and especially in the second period, which hasn't been our friend this year. I think we were the lowest goal differential before that game, and for us to have that type of second period I think it's a great sign. Hopefully it's a harbinger of things to come. I think with the 5 guys coming back, I think you have to remember that they're all NHL players.
Yeah.
And I think putting 5 NHL guys back in a lineup, there will be some miscues and some timing issues, but they're also having Tippett back and just watching him put the backhand in the top shelf. I mean,
what a pretty shot that was.
There's not many guys in the league that can do that, and so to get him back in the lineup is obviously a big boost to the offense.
It's funny you mentioned 2 things that we talked about yesterday on the show. First one, let's talk about that backhand. We were impressed by Draisaitl's backhand.
Unbelievable backhand.
It was unbelievable. And then Owen Tippett topped it.
Yeah.
It was always we're like, what the heck? How does that happen? How do you have a better backhand shot than Leon Draisaitl did? That goal was pretty incredible by Tippett. And the second period, we talked about it too. That's something that's been your Achilles heel in a lot of ways all year. And you guys really seemed to tighten it up there in the second period. And I was most impressed after they tied it at 3, that you guys just didn't miss a trick and you went right out and kept going, because that could have been a deflating moment, I think, at that point.
Yeah, there was some momentum swings in that game, and I thought we did a really good job of just keep playing. And, again, I think when we have a lot of balance throughout the lineup. I know it was Couturier's line that did a lot of the damage offensively, but there was a lot of good shifts by other groups as well, and I think that when you can come back after a goal against and just spend the next 30 or the next 35 seconds in the attacking zone, I think you can start chipping away at that momentum and start building it in your own way. So I thought we did a pretty good job of managing the game overall.
Brad, I know one of the things that we wanted to chat with you about is, and I think it's been really kind of an underreported and under-talked about thing with this team this year, But the real strength of this team has been its defense in a lot of ways this year. A lot of guys have really played well for you. Started beginning of the year, we talked a lot about Travis Sanheim. Obviously gets named to the Canadian Four Nations team, plays well in that tournament. But a guy like even Rasmus Ristolainen's had maybe his best season as an NHL player. I mean, Bundy and I have been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
Like, what clicked for him? What do you think? And we started to see it a little bit last year before he got hurt. But what really clicked for him to kind of take it to that next level?
I think a big factor in that is he had a full training camp. He was healthy coming into camp and wasn't dealing with an injury or coming off a substantial surgery where there was limitations on what he could do. He was on the ice every day, and I think that I wasn't a big fan of training camp as a player myself. I actually hated it, but it's a necessary evil. And at the end of that camp, you're way more prepped to hit the ground running when the games start coming at you for real. And I think for him, talking to people here, it's really been his first chance to do a full training camp, get a couple of exhibition games in, get in a flow. And I think you take a look at guys that miss camps, for sitting out for contract negotiations. We had two guys in Vancouver 4 years ago when I was there, in Pettersson and Hughes. And their games really didn't get into gear until the first week of December. They signed right at the end of training camp, so they missed the whole 3-week spectacle. And, they came out expecting to hit the ground running, and they couldn't find their game. And it really took them that 5 or 6 weeks. And I don't know if there's many guys that can miss that important part of the schedule and really start at the level that they want to start at.
Look at the Boston Bruins, right, with Jeremy Swayman this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, kind of throws everything off kilter through camp, and then takes him. Now he's got to begin his camp on the first day of the regular season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, well put, Brad, and that's a huge factor. A lot of people don't think about how you can disrupt your team accidentally through things that aren't mitigated necessarily on the ice. They're off ice things, and they creep into your locker room, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing with Risto is he seems to be having more fun with it.
Yes.
He seems to be enjoying it. And we talk about that on the bench. In the midst of the grind, hey, find the joy out there. It's an incredibly fun game to play, and especially at the highest level. You get tested every shift. I'm been really blessed to be able to stay around the game. And when you're behind the players on the bench, it's probably, I guess, the closest thing to staying in the highs and lows of playing. But I just think he's having a more fun with it. Obviously, it's gone well for him, and you have the puck more a little bit when things are going well, and everybody gets energized by that. But he's been a fun guy to coach. He's a very dry sense of humor and pretty quick to have the smart aleck comment back there on the bench. So. He keeps the bench loose a little bit like David Savard did for us in Columbus. I thought he did a great job of, in the most tense moments would leave the tension a little bit with a little bit of a funny quip, and then you kind of settle down, take a breath, and get back at it again.
You guys have a bunch of young defensemen, a couple of them that are, more veteran types in your lineup because they've been around for a couple of years, obviously, in guys like York and Drysdale, but you even had some guys who came up from the A. Andre has, had a couple stints up here now. What have you liked about the young guys? What are you excited about with the young defensemen as time moves forward here with this organization?
Well, I think they all offer a little bit different aspect. With Emile Andre, it seems every time he comes up, he's a little bit more refined, a little bit sharper in his execution, and tends to have a little bit higher level of success. It's a tough thing to do, to come up and down that many times within one season, and I give him a lot of credit because I did it myself. I was kind of that player between the American League and the NHL one year with the Hartford Whalers, and at a certain point it's like, uncle, and where do I fit? Am I an NHL guy or am I not? And I think it's a real tough mental exercise that he's going through. I think he's showing everybody that he can play in the NHL. I still think he's got to protect himself. He's still a little bit prone for the big hit, and at his size, there's a lot of guys that feel like they can get that lick in on him. So, he's proven that he can play. We're in that process now where we're kind of looking at all our players. You mentioned York. He's not a big guy himself. How big do you want your defense core to be when you feel like you really want to be knocking on that contender door, where you're a legitimate team that can win a playoff series and be there when there's only 4 or 8 teams left. And
right.
I think that's something we have to do, and it's part of the process we're in right now as an organization, is looking at these young guys. Even for a guy like York, he's played a ton of games for us. Everybody's getting evaluated, and where would you put these guys in on say when you piece together that real good defense core a year or 2 or 3 down the road?
What have you seen with Jamie? I mean, he's had kind of an up and down. I think he's been better lately. Just watching it from up top. But I mean, you're working with him every day. Are you seeing the progression now, maybe in the last month or so, month and a half, than maybe earlier in the season when he was struggling a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that his defensive game has obviously gotten better. He's way more comfortable dealing with speed or skill or size. It doesn't really matter. I think he recognizes how his feet can help him find solutions no matter what the defensive situation is. And I think that's a real feather in his cap, a real sort of step forward. I think, if you weigh it out, has it taken away some of his offense? Has he had some of the focus not on the offense? And if that's the case, then, we've got to make sure we're not, that's not the message that he's getting. And we had a good talk the other day. I said, how would you feel right now if you had a point a game? I asked him, how many points do you have? And he was like, I don't even like saying how many points I have. And it's not that's for an offensive guy, that's kind of, where you have your pride, and he's had points wherever he's been at every other level. And I think that he has to play with a little more swagger, has to learn how to inject himself or impose himself more often offensively. And I thought there was a couple glimpses of that last game. The one second period, he walked the line and threw about a 4-foot saucer pass. I think it was back to Mishkov. It probably could have been 6 or 8 inches off the ice, but he's got to tend to maybe overcook it once in a while. But I really think, at the end of the day, that's how he's going to help a team in a playoff series, is offensively. He's got a skill set that not many guys have. And I challenged him, and how offensively sharp can you play through these last 24 games now? And so I'm just, we're concerned that it hasn't been an overemphasis on the defense, but
right.
It's allowed him to get more minutes. It's allowed him, obviously, I have a way higher comfort level playing him against almost anybody on the other team. I rolled through the 6 defensemen last night. When they have Draisaitl and McDavid's split, it's impossible to try and catch up and get guys off the ice. So we let our 3 pairs play against no matter who was on the ice, and I thought they did a great job, especially through the first period. It allowed us to sort of, get 8 or 9 or 10 shifts for each pair. Everybody's into the game, and if we have to shorten it up here or there or focus on something down the stretch, it gives you that flexibility, and that was a real benefit for us last night.
Right, you guys just had 2 weeks off, and talking to some guys, I'm sure some guys love it. I saw Tyson Forster one day. He said it was great. I got to go away and still get home to see my family, which tells you that's an awful long break in season. But listening to Torts, maybe a couple weeks before the break, he was talking about how some guys it was going to really be important to some, and Mishkov was mentioned at probably top of that list. He looked like he came out with his pants on fire yesterday, and the break certainly looks like it did work for a guy like that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty daunting when you get to game 57 or 58 and you've never played that many regular season games, and you look up and we have how many games left? 25
left.
Yeah, and so I think for him especially, that first year when you've got to get through that grind of the regular season, I think the break came at a great time for him, and like you said, a lot of other guys as well. And I think the coaches, I got to my son plays in France. I got a chance to get over there for a week.
Great.
And still be back and feel like you're rested, get on the ice with the guys for 2-3 days and, get right back at it. So I think for the guys that were in the tournament, obviously they missed that whole break, and I think that might play a bit of a factor down the stretch here for a lot of these teams that are in the playoff race. But, we're hoping to sort of creep our way back into it, and I thought yesterday was a great step forward.
Absolutely.